Hey, welcome to the Cool Wholesaling and Land Deals podcast for real estate investing. Today we're going to do something new. We're going to do a question and answer format, and the topic today is how my business almost crashed this year and what we've done to um, mend it and bring it back. After 3 years of continuous upward growth and over $1 million in revenue, this year we've just gone down, 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 or we had a trend where we went down, 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 almost hit bottom, and then we've been pulling the nose of the plane back up. So we're going to talk about that today, candidly, and just we'll talk about what happened, why it may have happened, and what we've done to fix it and turn things around. So let's jump right into it. Um, Segment number one is the breaking point. Take us back to the lowest point. When did you realize this wasn't just a slow month, but a real crisis? Uh, in June, we realized we were having issues, especially with disposition, June of this year. And then in August, it was a full-on crisis, and we were like, holy cow. And I was in a place of, I might have to shut this whole thing down and just do deals on my own. And that was when, in June, we had 8 team members. And then in August, we still had 7. We let one go in June. So throughout this process, we let 3 team members go and we cut hours for 2 other team members and we cut our expenses to the bone. So yeah, I would say August was the crisis point. And I'm going to share my screen here too, because I've got some notes and some stats of stuff that I dug up from Podio. So let's share. All right. I want to go, whoops, go here. The low point was in June. We didn't pay ourselves for 3 months. By August, we hadn't paid ourselves for June, July, and August. And that's not my team. That's just me and my brother who are partners in the business. We withheld our salaries to keep the business going and keep the money in the business rather than us getting paid our monthly salary that we normally get paid. We did, have some issues with payroll too. I mean, we paid it, but we had some dicey months, some nail biter months. Um, Question number two, what were the actual numbers? How much had revenue dropped compared to your peak? So let's go into the screen sharing on this. Um, so we dropped revenue 33% year over year. We can see here the closed deals is a big one. The closed deals dropped from 33 through 3 quarters in 2024 to 24 in 2025. That's a 27% drop. Our solds was a really big delta. We had the 42 sold through 3 months in 2024 and 30 sold in 2025. This is one of our big indicators. We just weren't selling properties, even though when you look at the contracts, I mean, contracts were down 20%. But what's interesting here is that the deals in disposition, the number of deals we sent to disposition, 90 through 3 months in 2024 and 88 in 2025. So we really only dropped a tiny fraction in terms of the number of contracts, number of deals pushed, but there's a little bit of a discrepancy there between the contracts here and the deals in dispo. So whatever that is, our Podio is not perfect or hasn't been perfect. We're getting a new Podio. It's happening. Another really big one that we noticed was the leads dropped way off, right? And part of that is our focus on quality over quantity and just trying to only push leads that were really serious sellers, not just tire kickers. So that's part of it. But part of it was we just weren't doing enough lead gen. Um, well, there's other factors too. Let's go back to the questions here and make sure I'm on track. What were the actual numbers? How much had revenue dropped from your peak? So revenue dropped year over year, 2024 through 3 quarters to 2025 through 3 quarters, dropped 33%, or roughly $100,000 in revenue less than the previous year, maybe a little bit more than that. So that was a big gut punch. Those are some of the numbers. Walk us through the moment you thought I might have to shut the doors and start over. What was happening? Yeah, so that's what's happening. We were down in sales especially, and then, closed deals were down 27%, solds were down almost 30%, leads were down. But the way we were feeling it was the closed deals and the revenue, right? The revenue was 33% down year over year. And that, because our expenses were at about 33K per month, say 100K per quarter, we were really feeling it because we weren't making enough to keep up with our expenses. So we ended up having to cut back our expenses by letting go of 3 team members, cutting the hours of 2 other team members, and then cutting our expenses for marketing and our platforms and our subscriptions way down. We were able to cut our expenses by about 33%. The hard decisions is the next segment. So let's talk about firing 3 people and cutting hours for 2 more. How did you decide who to let go? Um, One of the things that we noticed was that disposition just wasn't working, and those stats bear it out here. We were getting a similar number of deals into dispositions, but they weren't selling. So part of that could be the quality of the properties, and part of it could be that dispo wasn't working or something in between. There also could be a factor there of buyer confidence. It seems like with the new administration and tariffs and interest rates having gone up earlier in the year, that was potentially a factor in what was going on with the offers we were getting. But some of it was the quality of the properties too. So um, firing 3 people and cutting hours for 2 more. How did you decide who to let go? Let's just talk about that briefly. Whoops, I'm in the wrong spot there, aren't I? Let's go here. Bring that back. So how did we decide? First off, dispositions wasn't working, so we let go of a person whose primary role was in dispositions. And they had been getting some coaching and some direction and some education as to how to improve. And they were working, but they just weren't hitting the targets we wanted and the standards we wanted. So that person was the first person to let go. They were a 2 year plus team member, so that was not easy. And I don't like giving up on people, but it was time. And then the next person we let go was our operations manager, and that's a role that was not directly tied to revenue and maybe was even, detrimental, and also one of our highest paid team members. So cutting one of our higher salaries plus cutting a non revenue producing role, that something wasn't directly tied to revenue, was a next step for us. We had done an annual review with this team member and realized that they had not hit targets we set out to hit. And also some of the stuff they were doing with our list management and list rotation may have knocked down our leads, you know, because they're experimenting with stuff to, I know our response rate from text went down and our leads, went down year over year. I guess we can look at this, see if I can find this document again. Podcast notes. Yeah, our leads were down from 2,400. We talked about this to 11410. Our leads were down 42% year over year, over 3 quarters. So I'm not blaming that person. I'm just saying that could have been one of the factors that was happening there. So what's next here? The third person we fired was also a dispo support person who we thought was going to be good, but they just weren't working out. They weren't living up to our standards, so we let them go. So 2 dispo people and 1 operations person. How did you handle these conversations? Um, I've kind of adapted what I've done, letting people go over time because, uh, sorry, trying to get the screen to change. And I don't know how to use the Zoom app. There we go. Um, I used to fire people in person, Zoom meeting, right? And I did that with the first person. We did a Zoom face to face. And what I found is people never really have anything to say or any questions because they're usually shocked and hurt or sad or whatever. So the second 2 people I fired, I just did an email notice and I did termination notice. Thanks for your service. These are the things that aren't working. This is why we're letting you go. Here's how your remaining compensation will be handled. If you'd like to jump on a Zoom call, please reach out and we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll just proceed with this whole thing. So I think that's just as clean for me. I ask myself, is that being cowardly? But I'm not against getting somebody on the phone or face to face and firing them. But since it's a virtual business, it's a little bit weird. Let's jump on a Zoom call so I can tell you you're fired. I don't know. So I think that the email thing worked just as well, and just communicate back and forth with a couple emails about compensation and final pay and stuff. And what's done is done, right? So that's the answer to that one. Um, After the cuts, what did your team look like and what did your day-to-day become? So after the cuts, we had 5 team members. We had me doing CEO functions and operations and helping with Dispo because my brother and me were rebuilding the Dispo department to try and make it work better. My brother's been Dispo manager. So he was there in the Dispo manager role and also doing other management functions. So that's the two-pronged management team. And then we have our lead manager who also took on transactions coordinations. So that's number 3. And then we have an acquisition sales manager who's primarily dealing with sellers and trying to get contracts and negotiate with them and build rapport. And he also took on a little bit of the post-contract review and some of the stuff that used to be in Dispo with reaching out to planners and getting more information. And then our SMS blaster uh, seller outreach guy took on some of the Dispo tasks and started doing the Dispo text blasting and some other things and did a great job with that. So leaner and more efficient for sure. Let's go to the next question. How did your remaining team react to all of this? That's a good question. Um, the remaining team, normally in the past, when I've let somebody go, I just have a meeting with the team members who are remaining on the team individually and just say, hey, just wanted to let you know what happened and why. I don't have to give every detail, but just like, this is where your role is, this is where you stand with the company. We're definitely want to go forward with you as long as you want to be a part of the company, and this is how your role might change, et cetera, et cetera. So I try and just do that. And I think there was a little bit of shock and surprise with people who had been on the team for 2 years and 1 year. The third person had only been with us a few months, but also there was some understanding and there was some recognition of how those people might have been slowing us down. So it was pretty good overall, I would say. A little bit scary at first and then pretty good overall. The next section of questions is about the pivot and what we actually did. So after the cuts, what was your first move and where did you focus your energy? Um, After the cuts, the first thing was really to focus the energy on dispositions because we had a gulf between the number of properties we were getting in dispo and the number we were selling. So there's some quality control on the acquisition side to make sure we're pushing good properties to disposition. And then really there was a big uh, amount of work to do on the disposition side to really revise our SOP and get it very organized um, and then work it, right? So SMS blast was a big piece of that to cash buyers using primarily investor base, which is a platform we have, but also cleaning up our buyer list and cutting out the dead weight and then doing a blast and make sure we're doing quality text blast in multiple rounds to at least 100 buyers on each property, and then making sure we're getting offers and feedback on the properties so we know whether to go for a price reduction, cancel the deal, or if we're going to get it sold, right? And trying to make all those decisions within 2 weeks' time and not dragging out that process. That's kind of what our focus was with dispositions. Let's go to the next question. What marketing strategies weren't working before and what did you change? So for marketing that wasn't working, I think that, SMS, text blast, text marketing has been our primary strategy. We've done some direct mail this past couple of years and some pay per lead, some cold calling in 2024, but not this year in 2025. And then, a little bit of referrals and a little bit of inbound on our website. So what wasn't working was probably our list rotation system for our texting. And so we've worked on that and improved that, and we've gotten our response rate up with texting, partly through managing our list rotation and which lists we're pulling. Direct mail, we had a flop of a direct mail campaign, partly because we took the advice of a representative at the direct mail company and tried a different mailer. And I think our failure on that is when trying a new type of mailer, after having had success with other types of mailers in the past, we tried a new one, and we should have done that on a small scale, and we did it on a big scale. We spent 3 or 4 grand on a campaign that really flopped and gave us like somewhere between 0 and 2 leads. And that's a big waste of money when you're already kind of in a low point where revenue's down from previous years and you've been battling. And we were like, well, direct mail's been so great for us in the past. Let's put some money into that and get some quality leads that are going to convert. And that flopped. So that was a failure on our part, and a good lesson. Next question. What systems were broken that you had to rebuild? The acquisition system was a little bit broken, as I said, with quality and with our SMS. And then also the disposition was the main one where we really needed to revamp and change our focus. Part of what happened with disposition too is we got blocked on Facebook Marketplace, which was a place we were connecting with individual buyers. So when we lost that, it kind of messed us up. We weren't able to sell to individual buyers as well. So we really had to focus back in on investors, and we had to ramp up our strategy for investors. And then we later figured out that using MLS might be a way to connect with individual buyers. So adding flat fee MLS to our dispo strategy, in addition to, doing the text blasting, doing some Facebook groups and other types of stuff, was a good addition. Next question. What surprised you most? Oh, no, that's number 11. Did you go lean and scrappy, or did you invest in new tools and strategies? That's a great question. We went super lean and scrappy is the answer to that, and I'll elaborate. The 5-person team seems to work really great because everyone is more in touch with each other and communicates really well. And everyone's a little bit busier, which I think is a good thing. I think the right amount of busy is just like a little bit more than you can actually accomplish in a day or in a week, but not so much that you're getting overwhelmed. And I think we pushed everybody more into that spot with cutting the team. I think we had some team members who weren't really working 8 hours, doing 8 hours of work in 8 hours of time. And so some of the jobs that got broken down or distributed among the team were actually able to be done in a small fraction of the time that they were being done in before. So that was one thing. So lean and scrappy. And the other piece of lean and scrappy is just that we cut our platforms and we cut our marketing and we cut a lot of things that we're spending money on down to the bone. Really looked at what we were using with all our subscriptions or not using, got rid of some subscriptions, downgraded a couple of subscriptions. We had some real dead weight with a bad bookkeeper that we cut. And that really was a great move for us, even though it created more work for the management team to get our taxes done. Um, the bookkeeper was an energy drain, and it was a money drain too. So yeah, lean and scrappy was a good move for us. What surprised you most about what actually started working? I th I think what actually started working for us that was really great was the synergy between the team. I think when you have dead weight or people who aren't really working as hard as other people or don't have the same positive attitude as other people, it slows everybody down. And when we sort of cut the dead weight, everybody was more efficient, more effective, happier, communicating better. So that really surprised me, or it didn't surprise me, but it pleased me. And then the other piece is that, the dispo stuff that I always thought was going to work, that we just weren't doing correctly, just like doing a simple text blast for cash buyers with investor base in our buyer list. We weren't doing that properly or the correct way. And once we streamlined that and dialed it in, it started working for us really well to get us results. So that's the answer to that. And we'll go on to the next question. How long did it take before you started seeing results from the changes? That's a really good question. And so After we sort of crashed and then made a bunch of changes and cut our overall budget, we started to see results right away in terms of energy of the team. I think there was more positivity and more energy and more of a sense of everybody pulling together, which is the precursor to tangible results. Like you get the energy going, you get the belief, you get the faith, you get everybody working together, and that generates the results ultimately. So that's what I noticed first was the energy shift. And then second, we started to get results, in terms of contracts and closed deals and selling things in dispo because of the practices we were implementing. And yeah, so it was energy first and then putting in foundations and SOPs and streamlining processes and trimming the fat and then actual tangible results in terms of sales and closings. And I would say that the energy was immediate. And then so the August and then September we started really selling things. And then October, we're in October now. We closed 3 deals so far. So we're like feels like we're back on track. So that's like 2 months after letting go of people, 1 to 2 months that we really started experiencing a turnaround after letting go of people and cutting expenses. Next is where are you now? So now that we've bounced back, but we're still in a wait and see place. What does that mean? It means that we still are behind, right? We did not pay me and my brother for let's see, June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. We didn't pay ourselves. We just left that money in the business to try and keep things going. We also maxed out a business credit line and a business credit card. And we postponed a balloon payment that we had to a seller that we bought a house from, and they did a seller financing note. So all those things sort of got pushed or stacked up, and we're in the process of recovering those things. And cutting our budget helped with that. So we'll be able to recover faster. We're starting to close deals now, but we're still a little ways out from being back to break even, catching up, and then back in the black and having reserves, like 3 months reserves or whatever. So that's that. And then what else do we have here? Uh, what's the next question? What do your numbers look like now compared to the low point? It's a good question. So numbers wise, I think that our leads have not changed a whole lot, and we could look back at this document here, not this one. Sorry, I'm not super great at screen sharing stuff. So leads, we're at like 150 a month so far in 2025. I don't think the leads have changed a lot, but our closed, we're already at 3 closed in October with a couple more in escrow. So that's good. And then what else? Contracts, we were at about 8 per month. I think we're still in the 8 to 10 per month on that pace. But what's improved is the solds are going up. We're not having a deals to sold ratio of 42% down like it was last year. We're selling the majority of deals that we're getting that are saleable. So I think that's the biggest positive on that. What's the next one? What metrics are you watching most closely to know if you're truly stable? I mean, we do need to keep our eye on the leads that are coming in, the marketing pieces that are going out, our response rate on the text marketing, how that's doing, and our sales in Dispo. Like, what's our response rate when we're doing text blasts in Dispo? Are we getting a 15 to 20% text a response from our buyer outreach? And then also, are we getting offers? Are we getting offers or feedback? Those are things that we're tracking so that we know where we're standing with the properties we're putting out there to buyers. So yeah, those are all things we're watching for sure. What else do we have here? Lessons and advice. If you could go back to the beginning of the downturn, what would you do differently? Oh, that's a good question. If I was to go back to the beginning of the downturn, which I would say is roughly June, we had a huge month in April where we made $92,000, which was great. It kind of caught us up from a slower second or January, February, March, first quarter. And then May was a 0 month. So we went 92 to 0. So that was a big boomerang. And then June was slow also. So really June was where the beginning of the downturn was. And we had known we needed to let the one dispo person go for a while. And I hadn't pulled the trigger on it. I didn't want to give up on them. I wanted to give them a chance. I like them. They're part of the family, right? 2 years in. But if I had it to do over, I'd let go of everybody sooner, faster. Just like I think the lesson is if it's your gut tells you to let somebody go, it's not a fit, it's not working, give them a chance. But if you already know that the chance has been given and they haven't performed or stepped up, then just, let them go. That's what I would do differently if I had it to do over again. Just do it sooner. Start the turnaround sooner. We kind of dragged it on longer than we needed to. If you could tell someone, what would you tell someone who's listening, who's in that dark place right now, revenue down and considering quitting? Um, yeah, I would say to that person, first of all, believe in yourself and keep the faith, right? You started this because you knew you could do it. And hopefully you knew there were going to be hard times. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner is very hard. So give yourself a break and figure out what needs to be done, right? Do your leads need to be more consistent? Are they inconsistent and up and down? Are there people on your team who are dragging down the energy or not performing that need to go? Is there some other bottleneck in your business with your systems that's causing you to falter or stumble? And what do you need to do to get your next deal? Are there leads that you need to follow up on that you need to follow up on? Are there people that you've canceled with or that might be able to resuscitate, things like that? But I would say those things. I would say keep the faith. I would say reconnect with your why. Like, why did you get in this business? Why did you start it? And also, I would say be comfortable being uncomfortable. And part of being a business owner and an entrepreneur, and especially in the real estate space where there are peaks and valleys, if you signed up for this gig, then it means you signed up to be uncomfortable. And the more you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, the more successful you'll be, I believe. Um, how has this experience changed you personally, not just as a business owner, but as a person? I would say it's taught me to trust my gut more and to be more proactive about making changes when I know they need to be made, especially big changes. To prioritize for sure, just make sure I've got my priorities in front of me as they are related to my bigger picture goals, and to stay on top of the priorities and make sure they get done. And yeah, to be smart about hiring people and not. I guess that's not a personal thing, but it goes back to trusting your gut and trusting your intuition, which they're important in business. If somebody doesn't seem right or something's just not quite sitting right, but you can't figure it out, then probably something's not right. I mean, we all are very intuitive people if we let ourselves be, and listen to yourself if you have an inkling that something's not right, and then jump in and fix it. That's what I've learned. Like, don't waste time. And then the bonus questions here: what's your current marketing mix? What channels are actually producing deals right now? Our primary channel is still text marketing. We're using Smarter Contact and sending 6,000 texts a day, 6 days a week, right? It's 36K texts. And that's our primary lead source. We're doing some small scale direct mail, and we're working on PPC and inbound marketing more because, you don't pay for those leads. They just come in through your website. So that's one of our next priorities, is to really work on that more, direct mail and on smaller scale until we have a tested mail piece that's really working, and then we'll scale that up. So but the primary thing that's working is text marketing, and we're using Deal Machine right now for lists, which is pretty good. We did that because it was a really cheap way to get skip traces, less than what we were spending with direct skip and other platforms. And we needed to cut our expenses in that area and in every area because we were at rock bottom. And but it's worked out. Our response rate on the Deal Machine list is pretty good. It's like 6 to 8% on average, I believe, and we're happy with that right now because we were even lower than that with our previous list rotation. What else do we have here for bonus questions? Let's see. How has your deal analysis or pricing strategy changed through this? That's a great question. I think we've gotten more aggressive. If anything, it seems like buyers have gotten more aggressive with their offers, just being lower. And so we have to be more aggressive when we're offering sellers. And our pricing has to be very attractive to buyers right now to move deals, right? We're just doing that on both ends. What was the other part of that question? Pricing strategy changed. Analysis. Yeah, analysis and pricing. We covered that. What's the one thing you'll never do again in your business after going through this? That's a good one. What will I never do in my business after going through this? It goes back to not letting people hang out in the business in positions if they're not producing or, bringing results. Don't don't belabor it. If somebody's not working, they're not working. Let them go, move on. Trust that that person is going to land on their feet and maybe an even better situation is coming for them. So, and what will I never do? The other thing I will never do is let my KPIs go so far, be so far out of touch with my KPIs because we've had issues with our CRM and tracking, and I put that in the hands of, someone else, and I just didn't get the KPIs that I needed, and that's on me. I need to make sure they're there no matter what. And so what I'll never do again is be out of touch with what's actually going on day to day, week to week, month to month with KPIs, because that's part of how we got into the mess we got into is just like not recognizing a negative trend until we were 3 to 6 months into it and then going, oh my God, we're at rock bottom and we might actually die as a business. So, Matt Larson, who's an OG of wholesaling, he checks his KPIs every day. He just gets a little mini report and looks at it daily. And if something's off daily or weekly, he's making a minor course correction to fix things. And I think that's what's needed. And that's what I will learn from this. And I think we have one more question, closing question. We're recording this in late October. Where do you want to be by this time next year? That's a good question too. And where do I want to be next year at this time? Well, it's funny because we were closing an average of like 4 deals per month in 2023 and in 2024. And right now we're just trying to get back to that because we averaged a little less than 3 so far per month in 2025, but we still had our expenses from the previous 2 years. So we've cut our expenses down now. So then if we get to 4 closed deals per month, then we're going to be very profitable, which is great. So that's, I guess, a silver lining. So where do I want to be next year at this time? I want to be at 4 or more closed deals per month, preferably 5 or 6 closed deals per month with similar expenses or slightly greater expenses because we'll spend more money on marketing maybe, but and probably higher. I guess, yeah, I do want to hire. So I want to be at 5 or 6 closed deals per month or more. And I want to hire somebody to do some operations and admin because I'm doing that now and I'm not good at it. I'm just doing it. And yeah, that's where I want to be a year from now. Back to profitability, having 3 months of runway in the bank and or more, and closing deals consistently and having the team working really well and solidly. We'll be doing this every week. We've got the Deal Squad small group coaching on Mondays, so you can check that out on my website or my stand store. My website's markcool.org. It'll be in the description too. And then if you have any questions or comments, or you want questions answered on one of these episodes, just drop them in comments on this episode or any episode, and we'll get to them. And yeah, we'll help out however we can.